Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to thank the new subcommittee chairman of the Communications and Technology Subcommittee. I know our country is in good hands, and our committee is as well, with Ms. Blackburn chairing that important subcommittee. And I want to thank my colleague from California for his kind comments and his work over the years on these issues. And I concur with him that we have a wonderful opportunity to continue our bipartisan work, as the committee is known for a long time. Clearly, from time to time, we'll have our differences, and we know that as well. It's part of democracy, but there's so much of this work, like this bill, that is so very important. So as we begin the 115th Congress, I'm pleased to be here to support this bipartisan bill, because I think it reflects the best of what government can do for those who sent us here. The Small Business Broadband Deployment Act seeks to alleviate, as you've heard, Mr. Speaker, these unnecessary regulatory burdens on small internet service providers. These are the small ones, oftentimes in our rural communities, but not always, while still ensuring that consumers are protected. We found the right balance here. By extending an exemption to the Federal Communication Commission's enhanced reporting rules, this bill allows these small businesses to focus on their core mission, and that is to provide broadband internet access to customers throughout America. And over the past year, we spent a great deal focused on this issue. We first raised concerns with the Federal Communications Commission in a letter, Mr. Speaker, from the committee, as well as from the Small Business Committee. We urged the chairman, Tom Wheeler, to not only make the exemption permanent, but also to raise the threshold by defining a small business to bring it in line with the definitions previously blessed by the Obama administration, Small Business Administration. So we're trying to find some consistency and some workability and some common sense here. Well, unfortunately, the FCC only extended the exemption for 1 year, despite the overwhelming support to do this as a permanent extension. It was clear Congress needed to act, and that's what we're doing here. I introduced a discussion draft last year that would have permanently extended the exemption and increased the threshold by defining a small business. At our January 2016 legislative hearing on the bill, we heard from a small internet service provider who shared the dilemma that many small ISPs face in these circumstances. Should they put up new equipment, or should they hire a lawyer to help with compliance? Should they improve service for customers, or should they devote those financial resources to sifting through regulatory language and drafting extensive reports on packet loss? So often these small ISPs provide service to areas of the country that are rural, like in my district throughout eastern Oregon, or Representative Loebsack's district in Iowa, we heard from him, or may not be as easy to serve, and in some cases provide a vital competitive edge to larger internet service providers. We should be making all efforts to promote the viability of these businesses. We should not saddle them with additional requirements that make it more difficult to do what they're in business to do. Representative Loebsack and I were able to come to a compromise through extensive negotiation, and in the bill we have before us today, we extend this exemption for 5 years. Now, it gives greater regulatory certainty to these small internet service providers looking for ability when making investment decisions. In addition, we increased the threshold for defining a small business and required the FCC to report back to Congress on the exemption along with data around small ISPs that's currently lacking. In the end, this bill represents a good compromise that will relieve burdens for small businesses while leaving in place protections for consumers. So it's important to note this bill doesn't affect the transparency rules, as my colleagues have mentioned, adopted in the FCC's 2010 rules. Consumers will continue to have access to those disclosures they have come to expect, with the information needed to make informed decisions about their internet service. Again, this bill passed the House unanimously last year, 411-0. Unfortunately, while it made it through the Senate Commerce Committee, it never quite came up for a vote in the Senate. In addition, the exemption granted by the FCC expired at the end of, December 15th of 2016 and has not yet been renewed. Now, that leaves these many small businesses exposed to the serious reporting burden that we've heard about throughout this process, as well as a great deal of uncertainty around what the future may hold for them. It is now more important than ever that we act to quickly fill this gap, protect these businesses and the consumers they serve. So I'd like to thank my colleagues on both sides of the aisle, especially Representative Loebsack, for working with us on this bill. This bipartisan process has resulted in a strong piece of legislation that I'm confident will protect many and promote continued network investment and build out by small businesses. This legislation represents a common sense approach to a problem that directly impacts so many of our constituents, and this solution will enable our country to continue its leadership in broadband deployment. I urge my colleagues to support this legislation. I yield